Impractical preps.
Oh, okay.
All right, here we go. Welcome to another episode of Prepper Talk Radio with Scott, Shane, and Paris in the house. And we are broadcasting from our remote locations, not deep inside bunkers, but we're excited to be here and we're excited to have you listening to us. This is the journey for those who are on the ready-minded road track. Most people out there aren't awake, aren't paying attention, and they are putting way too much trust in everybody else to come save them when things go sideways. And you are not. So thanks for being part of the show. If you want to get some sweet deals, check out our friends over at survivalfrog.com and make sure you use the promo code or coupon code PrepperTalk. That'll get you 10% off on your entire order. Plus, they've got some other cool deals going on, so you might be able to stack those and really, really take great advantage of getting better prepared before, things go sideways. Now, tonight we want to talk to you about some of the, I guess you could say, dirty deeds done dumb, right? The things that you could do wrong as a prepper. I don't know if dirty deeds makes any sense. Done dirt cheap, done dirt.
I know what you're going for, but
I don't know. But here's the thing,
that's what makes this podcast so amazing. We never know what is going to come out of each other's mouth.
My mouth,
exactly,
or
anybody. And we're like, okay, let's go with that.
Yeah, just to remind people how we prepare. We come up with a topic, and that's it. We all prepare individually. We don't prepare together, and just whatever happens, right? So
we don't have a sit down and read through it together at all. Like this isn't like a sitcom where everyone has a read through. It's not. It's unscripted, and we are prepared, but unaware of each other, and that's what makes this so much more fun.
I think so.
I like it.
But tonight is the don't do that. Don't you dare. Just don't. Right? Those are the conversation topics for tonight. These are the things that most oftentimes people ask me, like, "Hey, can I do this, or should I do this first, or what about this? I have an idea to do this," and I'm just like, "Don't." And we're gonna explain what that is. I think one of the most frequent ones I get is somebody comes up to me and starts asking about which freeze-dried food is the best. And so we'll have a conversation about it. And then I ask them before they go make any purchases. I'm like, okay, now do you already have your water? And they're like, what? I'm like, okay, don't buy any more food. Don't buy any freeze-dried food unless you have water. Do not under any circumstance go out and buy tons of freeze-dried food or even a little freeze-dried food if you don't have water stored and you don't have a procurement system in place to get more water. Because guess what? Water goes fast, especially if you're using 2 gallons a day per person per household just to get by. Now, if you start adding in cleaning and every other thing you need to do with water, that stuff goes fast. So don't go out buying all the freeze-dried food just because, it's on sale. It's a great deal. I'm going to buy a bunch more. How are you going to reconstitute that food? So that's the example.
Another one I get a lot is, I've gotten several times anyways, is should I buy a freeze dryer? Well, do you have your 90-day pantry first? Do you have your essentials? Like if power went out, do you have a plan for right away? And so get all that squared away first. I tell people, look, before you get into some of the yes, eventually, should you buy a freeze dryer? That's fine. I don't mind. However, if you don't have the basics down, those initial first steps, please just don't spend $5,000 on a freeze dryer when you haven't even spent a few $100s on a 90-day pantry.
Oh, and disclaimer here, this is another prepping don't listen to me or Paris or Shane or any other podcaster or creator out there about prepping and think that everything we're saying applies to you. Meaning, we've got basements, and so we talk about a lot of things that we can prep and use our basements for. If you don't have basements, that doesn't apply to you. You need to make sure you understand your situation and your region, because someone might have great advice, but none of it can apply to your situation. So don't just be like, oh, well, I'm planning to do this. If your basement's underwater a month out of the year every year because of high water tables, don't think you can just store everything on the ground in your basement and be okay. Like, you've got to take some creative thinking and some problem solving skills on your own, apply it to your situation, so that you don't get, you don't create your own SHTF situation in your own life by listening to bad advice or advice that is good but just doesn't apply to you.
I'm gonna say that's the number one tip for tonight. Don't listen to us.
Don't listen to
and
everything. Just don't listen to
that's my same attitude I have about every other podcast I listen to, because of course I think I know everything, right? And so when they say something, I'm like, no, and so it's obviously comes from a completely different perspective, a mindset, and people are different. We're all different.
Hmm?
And if you don't learn for yourself, none of this information is going to be any good to you anyway, right?
100%.
That's the whole point of self-reliance.
Mm-hmm.
You
Exactly.
you gather intel, you gather all the information, you collaborate, you coordinate, and then you make your own decisions.
Do you trust all your leaders, right? No.
That's the idea that we're trying to do. We just want to provide some things that have worked for us, some of our experiences, and hope that you'll take that and say, okay, I need this or I don't need that, and apply it for yourself and make your own decisions. The last thing, here's another thing I just don't want people to do. Well, I did this because Scott Payne, Shane, and Paris said to do it. Oh,
yeah,
no.
Exactly. No, I don't ever want to hear that.
If you hear us say something that maybe you think it's a good idea, go ask God if it's a good idea for you. And if he says yes, then yeah, you can blame it on God that he told you to do it, but don't blame it on us.
Amen to that, brother.
That's the thing I don't want anybody to do.
Yeah.
So this kind of makes me think of a story that I listened to last week. Have you guys heard of the cougar that's actually so efficient at killing that it's now leaving food for the wolves?
No, I haven't heard that.
This is the coolest thing. Like, okay, so it was in the news like 2 weeks ago. There's a cougar that, and I think it's in Montana. Someone, if you know where it was, please correct me. It might have been Washington State, but it's so efficient at killing that it will kill twice as what it needs and leave food stashes where the wolves can get to it, because the wolf pack that's nearby has been bothering it, and it's found that if it leaves them food, they leave him alone.
Wow,
how genius is that cat? So, like, when you think of problems and you think of all the advice you get from everywhere, like, you need to understand your situation. Do you have a wolf pack, right? Do you have someone that's antagonizing and screwing up your plans? You've got to creatively come up with a solution to solve that. And that's what this cougar did. And what's funny is like, I've been watching the news on cougars for a couple of years because of what happened in my front yard. But like in the state of Washington, they have a big problem with cougars and wolves killing each other right now.
Interesting.
Like, they started reporting that in 2022, October. And so this has been going on for a year. Like, there's bad blood, obviously, between those two groups, I guess, individual versus group.
Competing, yeah.
But yeah, they're competing in the ecosystem. So like gray wolves are getting torn up. Because that's not a fair fight. You put a wolf against a mountain lion.
Yeah, unless you got a pack of wolves, though. You got
a pack of wolves, he's in a better situation. But man, that mountain lion, that's the one animal I don't want to deal with ever. I would rather deal with a bear, because you can hear a bear coming. You won't hear a mountain lion coming. And that's the scary part.
Yeah, I've got a good friend that sent me a meme that said, if I ever die in the woods, just know that my last words were, "Here, kitty, kitty, kitty." And that's absolutely true for him. But for me, I agree with you, Scott. No way. I've never seen a cougar in the wild. Seen plenty of signs, but I'm sure that cougars have looked over me many a times and hopefully just said, "Oh, he's too much trouble." Right?
Yeah, he's too wiry. Leave him alone. They see me and they're like,
"Ooh, yummy." No, actually, when we started talking about this topic, the first thing that came to my mind is loose lips sink ships, right?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we break that rule. We've talked about it. This is what we do. And I know it can be tempting, for me, and for all of you to say, "Hey, I just accomplished this, or I accomplished that. I've got this, I'm doing so much better in my preps. I feel good." And you want to share it, right? And that's Well, we hope you do in discreet ways, right? Rather than saying, hey, look at all these guns I bought, yada, yada, so forth, right? Displaying them, showing pictures on your Instagram and all your social media channels. Not a good idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
So put a lot of, I would say my advice is put a lot of thought into that, what you want to share, how you would share it, how you would inspire others to prep, and say maybe, hey, let's go shooting, let's go do this or that, and inspire people rather than saying, this is what I have. This is, sharing the details, which could endanger what you have. Right?
Well, that falls into the advertising category, right? Don't go around advertising, first off, what you have, and second, where you live or where you put it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I have a bug out location, guys. It's in the middle of the Yucatan National, I don't know, some weird place, and here's the coordinates, right? You don't broadcast that information to anybody, right? And if somebody shares information with you, that doesn't give you credence to go share that information with someone else.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that,
I
I think
that's a great point, Scott, is, things that are shared in confidence, for your benefit, right? Take it for what it is. It's for your benefit, not to sink someone else's ship, right?
And as a prepper, I think the rule to that is always assume what someone shares with you is in confidence.
Yeah.
And that way you're not like, oh, my friend just did this, guys, and he lives over on 2083 Chestnut Lane, right? In Topeka, right? You just don't advertise. We advertise a lot of our own stuff. We divulge a lot of our own stuff. This is when we say, do as I say, not as I do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we still don't advertise 100% of our own stuff. We advertise, within some strange reason, a portion. But we don't want to tell you everything, because then, that's a bigger target for us.
Yeah. Well, also, the more public you are, the less likely. There's this weird.
Yeah, that's true.
There's this weird balance where the more public you are, the more safe you are in many ways. So it's kind of strange, but I totally agree that we should be. A meme came across my feed the other day on Facebook. A friend shared it. It says, "Sit with people who protect your name in your absence." And I'm like, that's powerful. We should sit with people. We should know people that are going to protect our name and our good reputation. But also, we should be the kind of person that somebody like that would want to sit with. And I think that's another part of it where, don't be blabbing your mouth. Now, are you going to mess up and probably say stuff you shouldn't to the wrong person at some point in your life? Yeah. And that's where you learn. That's where I honestly, that's how I've learned the lesson, which is kind of the hard way. And so I don't recommend it, because I know how much it sucks to have to be on the receiving end of, realizing that you made that mistake. But be protective of your stuff, and not only your stuff, but also be protective of your, if you do share, recognize that there's a chance that you might be deceived or might be taken advantage of. So have a plan in place for that. And so I think that's another part of people who share a lot of information don't have a plan in case they get double crossed or they get backstabbed. And so if you're going to be crazy enough to share, make sure you at least have a plan for when you get backstabbed, because it's probably going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's good advice.
Well, it's funny because it's like that falls into the security issue that people, for some reason, in my experience, most people don't plan for their security first, right? Don't go get everything until you have a plan and system in place to secure it, to keep it safe, to keep yourself safe. I can't. So many. This is one of the things. Huge pet peeve moment. Huge pet peeve alert. In Utah, there is a huge percentage of the population who, for some reason, they go around telling everybody this. Oh, if something goes bad, I'm just going to my mom and dad's house. They tell everybody. And it's like all these kids, mom and dad has like 5 kids. All 5 kids and all 32 grandkids are all out there. Yeah, if something goes sideways, we're going to grandma and grandpa's house. If something goes sideways, we're going to grandma and grandpa's house. And everyone's like, who's your grandma and grandpa? You can hop in. There's so many apps that actually divulge that information. I'm not going to talk about them, but it's such a security issue, and they don't have their own stuff, and they're hoping someone else is going to bail them out. But then they just sold out the person that's bailing them out because they've just informed everyone that they have enough food and supplies for 50 people.
Yeah, I think two things that go along with that is, first of all, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. And second of all, don't underestimate, I don't want to say your enemy, don't underestimate the desperation of other people, right? It can be very difficult, at least I found it very difficult to not keep all my eggs in one basket, right? I like organization. That means all your eggs are in one basket, right? That's kind of what organization means. But with some strategic thought and planning, I think it's a good idea to spread your resources out among locations, family, friends, or even just in your house to keep the eggs out of immediate baskets.
Well, think about like your get out of town bags, right? Your bug out bags or my emergency 72-hour kits, right? It's 96-hour minimum kits. A lot of people put those in the closets, out of reach, too high up for the kids to grab. Like we talked about this a few weeks ago. That's putting all their eggs in one basket, right? If you can split it up into two of every bag, and you have some at one exit and some at the other exit, boom. Now you got twice as much stuff. You get out of the house, you got everything you need.
Well, and of course, right? Like you mentioned before, Scott, you keep all your food storage in one room in the basement, and then there's an earthquake and the house collapses. How do you get to your food storage, right? Those kinds of things that need to be thought through, those kind of processes. And I acknowledge that's harder than it might seem. I mean, it has been for me.
Somebody who's struggling to get enough money to be able to get one bug out bag, like they're like, now I got to get two or split it up. So you absolutely have that in mind, and maybe as a hashtag goals, get what you can, and don't be worried about the rest of it. Some of it you don't need to worry about, and that's something else that I think that a lot of people in this prepper world need to remember is, don't panic. Don't get to the point where you're constantly in fear and worry, because that doesn't serve you. That doesn't serve you in the now. And if you're obviously we're preparing, we're recognizing what's going on in the world. We're seeing all the signs of what's happening. We need to be aware of those things. However, we need to also remember that God didn't give us the spirit of fear, and we have the spirit of faith if we have a trust in Him. And so I'm preparing. I mean, if you heard some of the conversations we have offline, you'd know that we are pretty aware of some of the deep, dark stuff that's happening in the world. But that's not where we focus, because we recognize that there's good and light. We want to bring light and information, and we want to spread that more than the other stuff. So hopefully you're not to the point in your preps or in your situation where you're so freaked out about everything, you're paranoid. And that's, I guess you're not paranoid if they're really after you. But I think one of the don'ts that I would say is, don't get so caught up in the negativity and the darkness that you lose your faith, you lose your hope, you lose the light. That would be one thing I would say for sure as a don't.
Yeah, don't forget to take a break. Because sometimes, I mean, for me, this has become a lifestyle. I don't need a break from it. Maybe a little bit here and there, honestly. Maybe sit down and watch a stupid movie or something. I don't know, that I wouldn't usually feel is a good way to spend my time. And so I say, don't forget to take a break. But I also say, don't waste time. For me, time is my most important resource, right? This thing, once it's gone, you never get it back. So don't be wasting time, especially now. Again, not wanting to share a dark message like Paris saying, but time is short. Don't be wasting time.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because if you're prepared, you shall not fear. And for those of you who are listening here, like, crap, I'm screwed. You're in that fearful mindset. It's because you haven't prepared. And it doesn't mean you have to have everything, but it just means you have to start getting your ducks in order, getting them in that row, whatever that looks like for you, right? Getting your 90-day home store. We say 90-day pantry or 90-day home store. We use those terms interchangeably. It means more than just your food storage. It's your food, your water, your medical, your first aid kits, your security, your resupply or restocking tools, and even the tools of the trade of being a homeowner or a survivalist or a homesteader, right? It's the things that you need for the next season of your life within that year.
Yeah, in 3 months sure is a lot of time to make other decisions and make other plans and make things happen, right? If you've got 90 days worth of supplies sitting there.
And I know that I know, Scott, you said that somebody had been asking about what preps for our pets. Don't forget about the 90-day pantry for those guys. I recently told my wife, I said, the next time you order some dog food, order 2 or 3 because I want to have a 90-day supply of dog food for the dog. And whether you need medicine or you need food, make sure that you're including that member of your family in your preps as well. Don't forget about our furry kids.
It's funny because so many people like to get the monthly subscription stuff, right? And that's great, right? You get stuff monthly that you need and use, right? But you also need to make sure you're planning further out, because if that gets cut off and other supply chain issues happen, what are you going to feed your pet? What are you going to feed your kid? What are you going to feed yourself?
Have a backup. Yep.
Because it goes back to don't put all your eggs in one basket, but don't rely on systems that don't last. Systems, especially our system that we all live in, that is designed to not last. Everything is designed with planned obsolescence, right? Yep. Oh, light bulbs are supposed to only burn so many hours. Well, why is the Edison bulb in the Edison home in Florida still the originals and they're still burning just normal? Planned
exactly.
So everything you have and everything you're subscribed to, those things will eventually stop. Like this podcast will eventually stop. It'll stop when things go so sideways that we can't broadcast anymore.
Yep.
Or Jesus shows up and he's like, "Hey guys, let's go." And we're like, "Peace out, world." Right? And let's go. What are we going to do today, Jesus? Right?
And then by then you're going to have to know our ham radio signs. And then when Jesus comes, we'll probably just be able to communicate at the speed of thought. So we'll be able to, we won't need ham radios when Jesus is here.
Pop in on you. Make sure you're doing okay.
That's right. So yeah, here's something I was thinking to go along with that is don't overdo it, especially at first, just like anything, right? You want to get fit. So you go for a 2-mile run or whatever, and you get your shin splints and you're worthless for another week or 2 or a month, whatever. And you can't do anything, right? So
absolutely.
And of course, this is all personal. Maybe you can sprint for a couple miles, not me. So take it easy, start slow. Don't burn yourself out. Because it may just be to your detriment, to where you get to the point where, like, I don't see any use to this. And follow us on our next hour. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, get into that. But right. And I don't want to say don't go all in, because right now is a good time to
go mostly in.
Go as far in as you possibly can.
You should go all in. Like, here's the thing is, this is an analogy that I've heard many years over the years. It's like, are you full-time? What does full-time mean? A lot of people think full-time means, 40 hours. Well, if I only spend, if you really calculate the hours you spend as a husband or spend as a dad, or would you consider those hours actually full? No, I'm a full-time dad all the time, because I'm working. I have my hobbies. I'm on the podcast with you guys, but I'm still a dad. Like, that's the thing about a prepper. It's like, in the background, you should always be consciously aware of what's going on, what's around you situationally. You should be thinking about, oh, wait a minute, what can I do to maybe improve here, improve there, physically. We just watched, I shared with the guys a funny meme, a funny reel that was there. This girl's running along the sidewalk. She says, "I don't run to look good in a bikini. I run to be able to outrun the RoboCops that are going to be chasing me away from as I'm escaping my 15-minute city, in 2030. And I'm like, yes, we need to be fit so we can accomplish things like that. Like, I mean, I don't think that's a conspiracy theory anyways, by the way, but I think that's a legit, like, we need to be, they called it Logan's Run, not Logan's Walk, not Logan's Trot. They called it Logan's Run.
Put that movie on your list to watch. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Logan's Run.
What was that, 1980s?
60s, I think.
60s?
I think it's 60s. It's early.
Yeah, they
I remember watching on TV as a kid going, What?
So again, kind of all the next one that comes to mind is don't make excuses, right? I think we all get tired at the end of the day, end of the week, whatever, and make excuses for not going a little extra mile to do whatever it is you got to do to be more prepared, right? You'd rather sit down and relax and say, I've been working all day. I'm dead tired. I'm just going to relax. Okay. Absolutely. We all deserve that, right? We all need that. Just be honest with yourself and don't make excuses saying, I'm not doing this because of this or that, or, oh, look, interest rates have gone down a few points. Oh, things are getting better. No. No, it's not getting better. So just don't make excuses, whatever that means to you. It's different for all of us.
I think another don't trade gear for value, or don't trade quantity for quality. I would say is another thing too, because I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, I just need going back to the idea that you grab off the shelf your 92-hour bag. Don't do that. Your 96 hours, pardon me, 72-hour kits. They only have 72-hour kits at most of the Walmarts. Or these don't trade that for the quality. You buy value. If you like, things might be inexpensive or they might be cheap. There's a difference between those two things. Don't buy cheap things just because you need to have something. Buy something of value so that you have the long-term value in it. I think that you're going to get way more out of this stuff if you take the time to do the research, to buy the right thing the first time, and then you know what you're supposed to do. And then as you gain more skills, you'll realize, hey, I may or may not have needed that after all, but I'm sure glad I had a good quality item, quality product, a quality bag, a quality knife, quality rope. You want to have good quality. Don't trade that for cheap or inexpensive or expedience.
Well, it's funny because it's like just like your vehicle maintenance plan, right? The manufacturer gives you the list of all the things you need to do. If you actually read your guidebooks, it tells you do this every 20,000 miles, do this every 90,000 miles, do this every 3,000 miles. Understanding life has maintenance cycles. Your house has maintenance cycles. Your tools have maintenance cycles. My brother was a wildland firefighter, and every quarter they would pull out all their tools. And if it was wood, they would oil the handles. And if it was, metal stuff, they'd sharpen all the blades on the daily, but they would treat them and they do the maintenance they need to do. Like his chainsaw, he was doing chainsaw sharpening daily when he was working, right? You have to maintain the things you have or they're not going to last. And it's better to buy nicer stuff that's going to last longer, and then know the maintenance to go along with it. That's why I'm so keen on looking at older vehicles right now. Like I am so torn because there's a few different ones I want, but I'm not going to just go buy something without doing more research, because it's not a must-have right now, right? I've got more time to do the right research. So don't skip the research and the understanding of the things you're acquiring to make sure that it is high quality and that it will last.
Yeah, you see, I see a lot of things come across my screen to say, "Oh, this is the perfect prepper, this or that, or you need this or you need that." Do you really? Don't just take somebody's word for that, because I find most of the time that kind of stuff is garbage.
Okay, for example, when we were at PrepperCon, and when you use generically any preparedness expo, right? Any consumer focused preparedness expo, they're going to sell you, they're going to have like the most incredible sales pitch on everything. Oh, you've got to have this tool. Every prepper needs this tool because of the XYZ and da-da-da-da-da. And not only can you get, break out of a maximum security prison with this tool, but you can also cook your dinner.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? You're going to have some crazy sales pitch. What's funny is the big sales pitch stuff that I never bought, that I was like, guess what? None of that stuff. I'm not missing it.
Well, and if you look back to see if those vendors are still in business, most of them aren't.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have any specific examples at the moment, other than maybe, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't say it. The Hawk Hasp, remember that one, Scott?
Yeah.
Just a lot of things that are kind of gimmicky tools for preppers. Just be very discerning in when you're buying those types of things. You know, if it says it does everything, it probably does everything poorly, right?
Yes. Anything that says it does everything doesn't do anything great.
Exactly.
I think another thing to remember too is that a lot of times we want to buy the fancy. I think you mentioned this earlier, but I just kind of want to elaborate a little bit more. Like, don't buy the fancy food storage. You don't have to buy the most expensive freeze-dried foods. Literally, like canned foods are just fine, and you can get those fairly inexpensively at your local grocery store. I mean, just add a couple cans to your grocery list every week when you go and just keep filling that thing up until you have your 90 days. You don't need to buy the $1,000 33-month supply, this, that, the other. I mean, sure, once you get to the point where you've got everything square, like if you've got your 90, like for me, I had my 90-day pantry done. Like I knew I could rotate and I could live 90 days just from stuff I had from the grocery store. After that, I was like, how do I get to a year? Well, to get to a year, you need things that are going to store longer.
Yeah.
And so that's when you get into the freeze dried stuff. That's when you get into the number 10 cans, and you go to bulk foods, and you get into the rices and the noodles and the stuff that you can keep long term. But don't get so caught up in, oh wow, this place is having a sale. And like I had a guy reach out to me, and I think he's in a proper place to do this. So I'm not calling him out at all, but he said, hey, Augustin Farms is having a sale. What do you think? And I'm like, well, dude, I have a ton of Augustin Farms cans of food, freeze dried and dehydrated foods. It's a decent company, and they've been around long enough, and they're still in business. So to me, that tells you something. Number one. Number two, go for it. And I know he's already got his 90. I mean, he's in a place where that kind of stuff is totally appropriate. So just make sure that you're not, going crazy with the next food sale. And that, I mean, this goes with gear as well. I mean, we're in the attitude of not buying above what you should be. So don't be doing that with food either. You don't need to. You can get good food storage from just the local grocery store, just at least to get that foundation level food storage.
Yeah, and it's not going to do you any good to go into debt for your preps.
That was what I was going to say next.
It really isn't. It really won't.
Debt. Yeah. And that's where most people do, is they go into debt when they're buying stuff like their freeze-dried foods.
Yeah, exactly. Because it gives you the option for easy pay, right? Some kind of easy pay. Finance us over 12 months or.
We've got our own financing. It's great. You can have it in case everything goes sideways.
I must say, sometimes they do have the 12 months, no interest option, right? Divide your payment above 12 months. Okay. That's, as long as there's no interest attached,
Yeah,
that's not so big a deal for me. For me personally, in my situation, that's not so. I've done that before, but yeah, if it's got interest attached on there, and then something happens and you can't pay for it, and you're in trouble. But
it goes into the right practical living. Prepping is practical living, right? Prepping is looking to the past to prepare for the future. My dad and I had this conversation this last weekend about, if you don't have the money for something, you don't buy it. There's a great sketch on Saturday Night Live that
Steve Martin. What? I don't understand.
On it too. Yeah.
If I don't have the money, I shouldn't buy it.
I love that.
What?
Dude. So
yeah, it's exactly like, if you don't have the money to do all this stuff, don't do it. Unless you can pull the money from something else that's stupid, that you shouldn't be doing. Vis-a-vis, am I planning an expensive cruise for the whole family and I don't have any of my preparedness done? Cancel the cruise. Yeah. Oh, we're all going to Disneyland. Cancel Disneyland.
Yeah.
Right.
That could be hard, especially to convince the significant other.
Once you pull your stuff, go to Disneyland 3 times. I don't care.
Yeah, exactly. Once you got your stuff.
My favorite is watching all these emails hit my inbox that are like, hey, here's a special deal on this for prepping. And I'm like, I already got that done. Like, if you, and this isn't a don't, this is a do. Get involved in what I call checklist prepping. We have a tool on our website, preppertalkradio.com. Go to the resources, download your inventory checklist, customize it to yourself. I'm telling you, that thing, when I started using that thing, this is the one I actually use. That changed my entire world in prepping. Like, overnight, I realized how much more stuff food wise I had than I thought. I also realized where my biggest gaps were. And I was like, oh, now I know where to prioritize.
Amen.
And without organizing, like you go to the grocery store and do you think they have an accounting for every single can and every single bottle on every single aisle?
Oh,
Heck
yeah.
yes, they do. You should too. And if
Yeah.
you do that, it's going to give you so much, it's going to be so much crazy peace about where you are in your journey, and it'll open up your eyes to see where you need to focus next. Right? You don't ever just quit prepping. Focus on what's most important next, or focus on filling the gaps, and it's better to have a little bit of everything than all of one thing and nothing else. Case in point, don't go out and buy another gun if you don't have a few thousand rounds already for the guns you have.
Amen to that.
And the other thing too, that's kind of one of my pet peeves is I love guns. Don't get me wrong. And I love the Second Amendment, and I'm training on the regular. But when I talk to somebody like, man, I don't need to get food storage. I got guns. Well, okay. Well, what are you going to do with those guns? Oh, I'm going to go hunting. Well, if everybody goes hunting, what do you think the animals are going to quickly happen? You know, they're going to die because they got hunted. Then they're going to realize this is not a safe place to go because all of our buddies got killed. And then what are you going to do? How are you going to eat? You can't eat bullets. So definitely, I mean, amen. Get guns, get bullets, get ammo, get it all. But don't do it at the expense of having food and water. My goodness, there's so many people.
Yeah, of course, the same goes for gold and silver. It's you can't eat gold, you can't eat silver, but yes, you can barter with those, and you can barter with guns and ammo as well, right? But I prefer a more balanced solution. I don't want to have to count on having to barter for anything I need, right? I don't need a whole bunch of guns. I need a couple of guns, right? I need a couple of handguns, a couple of rifles. That's all I need, and adequate ammo for it.
I don't know about based on results. Based on results, though, Shane, I don't know if that you're following your own advice.
Well, I kind of already have already completed a bunch of the other steps, so I'm buying that freeze dryer. Essentially, is what I'm doing, right? I've got the other things, right? So
I'm teasing you.
He's hit all the other checklists, so he's to the point where he's got some disposable income and he can play with what he wants to do.
And I'm on
it's not for prepping
as well.
It's for life enjoyment at that point.
There we go.
And learning, and it's really everything's about learning, And I know I sent you guys another picture, another one of these things.
There you go.
And I'm still on that journey. I thought I had it figured out. I think I do now.
I know you were like,
and then something else will come out. Oh, I figured it out. No,
and next year you'll figure it out again.
Exactly. But I have the ability to do that right now, and it's not compromising anything else. And I can always sell those ones that are lower on my list. It's just, and I've explained this before. Is basically currency. It's taking a different form, right? Whether I'm paying with gold or silver or U.S. dollars, and I buy a box of ammo, that's just changed form. There's still value in that box of lead. That if I don't shoot it, I can barter with it or whatever. So that's kind of my mentality that way. But I know we're coming up close to our time on an hour here. I had a few more things I want to get to real quick. Yeah. And I guess along those same lines is don't be caught unarmed, and don't not keep around in the chamber. If that makes it double negatives. Always keep around in the chamber. Always be armed. That, in my opinion, that should be your goal if you are serious about protecting yourself and your family. I know that's a hard thing to do. It's been a long, long journey for me, but I think it's a good idea to get started on that journey if you haven't already.
Well, just understanding like the slowness of getting around chambered, especially in a fight or flight situation.
Exactly.
Your motor skills are going to be compromised. And so it's a really good idea to get yourself comfortable now, having one chambered all the time.
It's like driving down the street and waiting until, I'm going to be in an accident, and then putting your seatbelt on. Will you have time? Maybe. Will you have time to chamber around? Maybe. I think it's much better to just drive around with your seatbelt plugged in.
Good
So,
point.
Here's another one before you jump. I know you've got some more, but don't forget to like and subscribe and share all of our stuff.
yeah,
Amen.
absolutely.
Did you have more you wanted to share?
I'm sure I've got some other ones here. We got a few minutes left here. I've got one I want to end with, but a few others here. Paris, this is right up your line. Have you seen the latest list of 7 Stoic don'ts?
I haven't.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
should go look at it. Those are all great, perfect prepper don'ts, right? A few. Here's one that really stands out, I think, for me in the prepping world. Don't compare yourself to others, right? Because if you see someone who has so much more than you and they're so much further on, they've probably been doing it longer. They're probably in a completely different situation. They have different needs. You don't know their situation. And so, it doesn't do you any good to compare yourself to others unless it inspires you, right?
Yeah.
Unless it's inspiring.
Hashtag goals.
Yes, we're almost to 2024. I've started on my list of goals as well. So
Awesome.
and then let's see. I think the last thing I would say is don't forget to pray.
There you go.
Right? I think that's a good one to end it on. Is I mean, this is for me. This has all been up to my Heavenly Father. For where I'm at, I owe all to Him, and it's because I have consistently prayed for years and years and even decades to reach my goals, and couldn't do it without Him.
Even to know what goals to set. That's the
Yeah, absolutely. What's a realistic goal? Absolutely.
Amen, dude. That's awesome.
Well, thank you guys for your wisdom today. Thank you guys, those of you listening, for participating in Prepper Talk Radio and for helping keep us going to help keep you going when things go sideways. Remember, this is the podcast with a focus on God, family, and country. This is about you taking responsibility for yourself and doing the things you need to do to get your family in a better situation. If you have questions and need help on what to do next, join our Facebook group, Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance. We're in there all the time talking. There's a lot of fantastic people in there all the time helping each other out. It's a very positive group. A lot of the ones I've been in, there's a lot of, let's just say, rudeness going on and a lot of keyboard warriors that just don't understand. Prepping is a group event. We need to help everybody get to the finish line. So until next time, stay ready-minded. Keep liking, subscribing, and sharing the heck out of this. And if you are ready to get into some better investing ideas, you're tired of the 401ks, take a look at ITM Trading. Go to learn.itmtrading.com/Prepper Talk Radio. They're going to give you a free consultation to help you understand how to diversify into gold and silver. You can also call 1-866-257-0481, and they'll help you that way as well. Thanks for listening to Prepper Talk Radio. We are going to catch you on the next episode.
See you next week.
Take care.